Let's welcome him, Arvin Vohra.
Thanks, everybody. In addition to political life, I also work in education. That's what I do. I wrote a book about education. It's called The Equation for Excellence, How to Make Your Child Excel. It was published in America. It was published in China. I founded my own education company in 2001. It's called Arvin Vohra Education. And working in education, I've become aware of a just inexplicable fact that exists. Our high schools are among the worst in the world, and yet our colleges are among the best in the entire world. So something is happening between June of a person's senior year and September of their freshman year in college that's completely transforming education. I mean, what is happening in those 3 months or those 2.5 months between June and September? How is everything transforming so completely? How is our education system going from being a national embarrassment to the envy of the entire world? Now, of course, a lot of people think it has to do with money, but I don't think it does, because if you look at the schools in America that get the most money, some of them are the worst schools. Washington, D.C. is a perfect example. And actually, internationally, we spend more per student in public schools than almost any other country in the world. More than Japan, Korea, Germany, England, France, any country that you would ever think of, we spend more than that country. So what is the difference? Like, what is causing this disparity? I think it's the 5.5 words that have made America great. And those 5.5 words have given us everything you see here today. They've given us these great restaurants, these bookstores. They've given us computers and chocolates and literature and film. They've given us every single thing that we hold dear. And where you don't have those 5.5 words, something's missing. And what are those 5.5 words? They're "I'll take my business elsewhere." You see, if you don't like a coffee shop, you can go to a different coffee shop. So that makes every coffee shop try to make coffee as well as they possibly can and give you the best service that they possibly can. If you don't like a computer, you can get another brand of computer. If you don't like a book, you can read a different book. But if you don't like your public high school in Maryland, you're stuck unless you happen to be rich enough to afford $25,000 or $35,000 a year in private school tuition. So why is that significant? I mean, why didn't I talk about the DMV, which has maybe the same problem, or the post office? Well, because I think education is a lot more important. Because there is nothing on earth that is as dangerous as an uneducated democracy. Because in a democracy, all the people are the power holders. And our job is harder than just governing. We have to see through the words and the manipulations and sometimes the outright lies of those who are governing. It's just like, to use an education example, it is easier for me as an educator to get a perfect score on a standardized test than to teach someone to get a perfect score on that same standardized test. Having done both, the second one is much, much harder. In the same way, we have a much more difficult task before us, and our education system right now is not preparing us to do that. Now, of course, the other question comes out, why would we consider voting for a third party? I mean, why vote for a third party? Why not just say, well, I don't like the Democrats, so maybe I'll vote for the Republicans because they're kind of the opposite. Using that whole idea that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Saying that if somebody opposes something that you also oppose, sounds good. Many of us, I believe, felt that way in the last presidential election. We're so fed up with Bush that we were willing to basically support anybody else. The problem when you say that the enemy of my enemy is my friend is sometimes the enemy of your enemy is even worse than your enemy. He'll waste more of your money. He might come up with even stupider ideas than your original enemy came up with. During that presidential election, President Obama talked about moving away from the politics of fear and moving towards the politics of hope. Moving away from fear towards hope, and the implicit message in that, of course, is that hope is the opposite of fear. Hope is not the opposite of fear. Bravery is the opposite of fear. Courage is the opposite of fear. Fearlessness is the opposite of fear. If we're going to move forward, if we're going to really get past this last barrier to democracy, and by that I mean this monopoly that this two-headed monster of the Democrat and Republican Party has in our political system, that's what we're going to need. We're not going to be able to just kind of walk in through, we're not just be able to hope for the best, because hope is inherently a passive emotion. It's saying, somebody come and fix this problem for me. Courage is an active emotion. It says, I'm going to do whatever it takes to fix this problem for myself. Like many of the people here today who are running for office, I fundamentally believe that major political changes and major social changes are possible. I think we saw that in the beginning of this country, where a group of people decided that they'd had enough with their federal government and wanted to make fundamental changes. I think we saw that in the civil rights movement in America and other countries. And I think that we will see the same thing happen with the liberty movement in America. My name is Arvin Vohra, and I'm proud to be the District 15 Libertarian candidate for the Maryland House of Delegates.